My roommate got an emotional support cat, but refused to clean up after it, so I documented everything and moved out. A year later, she showed up with a cat, and we had a huge fight. Hey Reddit, I need some perspective on this messy, literally, situation. I'm 24F, and I used to live with my roommate, Claire, 23F. At first, things were great, clicked right away, had similar cleaning habits, and split chores 50-50ths. Everything was smooth sailing until Claire got an emotional support animal, a cat. Let's call it Snowball. Nah, I'm not anti-cat. I don't have allergies, and honestly, I thought it'd be nice to have a pet around without the full responsibility. I pictured cozy evenings with Snowball curled up between us on the couch. That dream lasted about a week. The reality of living with an ESA that's not mine. The problem wasn't Snowball herself, it was everything that came with her. First, the shedding. I'm talking endless clouds of white fur. It covered the couch, the chairs, the curtains somehow. It was even floating in the air. No matter how often I cleaned, it was everywhere. Then there was the destruction. Snowball had a habit of knocking things over. At first, it was small stuff bins, magazines. Then it escalated. One day, she launched herself off a bookshelf, taking down an entire row of Claire's decorative ceramic figurines. They shattered everywhere. I spent an hour helping Claire pick up the pieces, all while silently fuming. And then, the scratching. Snowball treated the legs of our dining table, thankfully Claire's, not mine, like her personal scratching post. Deep gouges covered them. Claire just shrugged and said, "That's what cats do." The real issue, Claire wouldn't clean up after her cat. Claire barely lifted a finger to deal with any of this. She'd half-heartedly brush fur off the couch, only for it to return within an hour. She'd pick up the bigger things Snowball knocked over, but leave the smaller messes. And as for the scratching, she just ignored it. Whenever I brought it up, she'd say, "Snowball helps with my anxiety. The mess is just part of having an ESA. It's a small price to pay for the comfort she provides." Meanwhile, my own anxiety was skyrocketing. I like things clean. I need things organized. Living in this constant mess was stressing me out. It wasn't just a visual issue, it was the feeling of always being on edge, knowing something else would get knocked over or another layer of fur would settle on my freshly folded laundry. The conversation that started it all, I finally decided to bring it up, trying to be as nice as possible. "Hey, Claire, I've noticed there's been a lot of cat hair around lately, and it's getting overwhelming. Could you maybe vacuum a little more often?" She immediately got defensive. She said I was being insensitive, that Snowball was helping her through a tough time, and that cleaning actually stressed her out. Then she hit me with the kickers, implied that I should be helping clean up the cat messes since I also benefit from Snowball being around. I don't. I was neutral about the cat at best. The only thing Snowball provided me was extra work. After that conversation, I ended up deep cleaning the entire apartment by myself. It took me 4 hours, and I was exhausted, but I refused to keep doing it. I stuck to our original agreement. He cleaned my half of the chores, vacuumed my own space, and took care of the common areas when necessary, but I drew the line at dealing with Claire's cat mess. So, Reddit, was I the a-hole for refusing to take on extra cleaning because of Claire's ESA? Update 1. A few days later, after reading your comments, I realized I needed to try one last time to work this out with Claire. First, some clarifications. Yes, Claire has an official ESA letter, but it doesn't really matter because our apartment complex allows pets anyway. The only difference is that she doesn't have to pay extra fees. Claire does clean. She's not a total slob. She does her share of regular chores like dishes and trash, but when it comes to cat-specific messes, she completely neglects them. So, I Saturday her down again and calmly proposed a compromise. "Look, I understand that Snowball helps you, and I'm not asking you to get rid of her, but the mess is really affecting me. How about this? You commit to cleaning up Snowball's messes, vacuuming the fur, wiping down surfaces, and dealing with things she knocks over at least 3 times a week. And in return, I offered to vacuum the whole apartment twice a week just to keep things under control. I thought my offer was pretty reasonable. It would address both her needs and my concerns about the cleanliness of our shared space, but Claire rejected it. She said having a set cleaning schedule for Misty's messes would feel like too much pressure. She argued it would make her feel constantly monitored and judged. She claimed that any pressure to clean on a schedule would actually increase her anxiety, which, in her mind, defeated the entire point of having an emotional support animal in the first place. Then, a few days ago, I found a cat hair in my food. I'd sealed up leftovers in a container in the fridge, and when I opened it, there was a single white cat hair sitting right on top. I know it doesn't seem like a huge deal, but it was the last straw. It felt like a violation, like the mess had invaded even my personal space. It made me feel sick, so I ended up tossing the food. It's getting harder to stay calm about this. I'm starting to feel genuinely resentful and anxious, always on edge, wondering what the next mess will be. I'm considering involving the landlord, but I don't want to escalate things. I don't want to make things even more awkward or hostile between us, but I'm not sure how much longer I can deal with this. Our lease ends in 6 months, and I'm starting to count down the days. Update 2 1 week later. Well, things haven't improved. I haven't gone full nuclear yet, but I did take a small step toward involving the landlord. I didn't directly complain about Claire or Misty, but I submitted a general maintenance request for an unrelated issue, a leaky faucet, and casually mentioned excessive pet hair in the common areas of the apartment in the comment section. The landlord responded quickly and sent out a general email to all tenants, reminding everyone of the pet cleanliness policies. It was generic, nothing directed specifically at Claire, but I hoped it would make her think twice about letting the fur pile up. It didn't work. There's been no change in her behavior. Misty is still shedding like crazy, and Claire still isn't cleaning it up. I even saw Misty jump onto the kitchen counter, right next to where we prepare food, and Claire didn't bat an eye. So, I decided to take one last shot before resorting to more drastic measures. I scheduled a formal roommate meeting. It sounds a little dramatic, but I felt it was necessary to make it clear how serious this issue had become. I even created a written chore chart outlining responsibilities for dealing with Misty's mess. The chart included things like vacuuming the living room rug at least 3x a week, wiping down surfaces daily to remove cat hair, cleaning up anything Misty knocks over immediately, addressing the scratching damage to furniture. I presented the chart during our meeting, trying to stay calm and reasonable. I explained that I wasn't trying to be controlling, but that I needed a clear agreement on how we would handle the mess. I even offered to take on some extra non-cat related chores to balance things out. She refused to sign it. She called the chart controlling and passive-aggressive. She accused me of micromanaging her life and said it made her feel like she was living in a prison, not a home. Then she started crying, telling me I was attacking her mental health. She said I had no idea how much Misty helped her and that I was making her feel terrible for needing an emotional support animal. It was a disaster. I felt guilty that she was crying, but I also couldn't ignore that she was using her emotions to avoid taking responsibility. I'm not backing down. Oh, I'm sticking to our original chore split and still doing the extra vacuuming I volunteered for, but I refuse to go above and beyond to clean up after Misty. I've started documenting everything, taking photos of the mess and noting the date and time. I'm not sure if I'll ever need the evidence, but it makes me feel more in control of the situation. Most importantly, I've started looking for a new apartment. I've been browsing listings and contacting landlords, determined to find a place that's clean, cat-free, and drama-free once my lease is up. Update 3 1 month later. Things have definitely escalated. It feels like living in a passive-aggressive war zone. Claire has started leaving notes around the apartment criticizing my chores, little things like, "Did you forget to wipe down the counter after breakfast?" or "The trash can is overflowing again." The problem is, I'm doing my chores. I'm following our original agreement to the letter, and I'm even doing the extra vacuuming. Her notes are totally unfounded, and it feels like she's deflecting attention from the cat mess by making me out to be the one slacking. It's gotten to the point where we barely speak anymore. When we do interact, it's strained. She's become distant and hostile, and I'm constantly on edge. just waiting for the next note or sarcastic comment. One day, I was cleaning up the cat hair, and she walked in and sarcastically said, "Oh, I see you're finally cleaning." I was furious. I left and went to a nearby cafe to calm down. But the worst part, the thing that's really pushing me over the edge, is the smell. The apartment is starting to smell faintly like cat. It's not overwhelming yet, but it's definitely an unpleasant odor that lingers in the air. I haven't said anything to Claire because I don't even want to talk to her anymore. I'm pretty sure she's not cleaning the litter box enough. I haven't seen her clean it in weeks, and I don't want to snoop in her room, but the smell is becoming undeniable, and it's making the entire apartment feel unclean even the areas I'm keeping tidy. I tried using air fresheners, but they only masked the smell temporarily. I had a friend over the other day, and even they commented on it. They didn't say anything about cat urine directly, but they made a face when they walked in and said, "Is something off?" It was embarrassing. I made an excuse about a cooking experiment gone wrong, but I was mortified. I've stopped inviting people over altogether. I've officially hit my breaking point. I can't wait until the lease is up. 6 more months feel like an eternity. I've started looking into breaking the lease early. I've been researching tenant rights, searching for legal loopholes, and even considering consulting a lawyer. I know it'll be a hassle, and I'll probably lose some money. But at this point, I'm willing to do whatever it takes to escape this situation. My well-being and mental health need to come first. I can't keep living in a messy, smelly apartment with a roommate who won't take responsibility for her pet. Update 4, 3 months later. Final update. Alright, Reddit, this is it, the final update. I'm officially out. It's been a long, exhausting road, but I finally managed to escape the chaotic, smelly, passive-aggressive nightmare that was my living situation. Breaking the lease, after weeks of research and back and forth, I managed to negotiate an early lease break with the landlord. It wasn't easy. I had to pay a fee basically 2 months' rent, which done, but honestly, it was worth it for my peace of mind. I provided the landlord with all the evidence I had collected, photos of the messes, the dates and times, copies of Claire's passive-aggressive notes, and everything else. I explained the situation calmly, emphasizing that I had tried to resolve things with Claire directly multiple times, but she refused to cooperate. The landlord was surprisingly understanding. I think the photos of the cat urine stains on the carpetons I found after moving some furniture were probably what sealed the deal. Claire, of course, was furious. She accused me of going behind her back and sabotaging her. She claimed I was exaggerating and that the landlord was being unfair. But the landlord had seen the evidence, and while they didn't explicitly take my side, they agreed to let me break the lease without any further penalties. The moving out process. As expected, Claire avoided me as much as possible. I just focused on packing up my things quickly and efficiently. I hired movers for the heavy lifting, just to minimize the time I had to spend in the apartment. My new place is everything I could have hoped for: clean, quiet, and cat-free. The first night I spent there, I sat on the floor, surrounded by boxes, and just breathed a sigh of relief. Claire's final text. As soon as I left, Claire predictably sent me a long, angry text. She called me a terrible friend, a horrible roommate, and basically the worst person ever. She accused me of being selfish and inconsiderate, claiming I ruined her life by moving out. She even said I traumatized Misty by abandoning her. I read the message and then blocked her number. I didn't need that negativity in my life anymore. I was done. Future roommate situations. In future roommate situations, because I do plan on having roommates again eventually. Since living alone is expensive, I'm going to be upfront from the start. Clear expectations, communication, and a willingness to address problems early on are key. I've even been considering creating a roommate agreement template that covers everything: chores, guests, noise levels, shared expenses, and yes, even pet responsibilities. It may sound a little formal, but I think it could prevent a lot of misunderstandings down the road. Maybe I'll even post it on Reddit to see if anyone else finds it helpful. As for Claire, I don't hate her. I'm angry, and I'm still resentful, but I also recognize that she's probably going through a tough time. I don't know the specifics of her anxiety, and I'm not trying to minimize her struggles, but I know her mental health isn't my responsibility, it's hers. Using an emotional support animal as an excuse to avoid basic hygiene and shared responsibilities just isn't okay. I'm so relieved to be out of that situation. I'm starting fresh in a clean, cat-free apartment, and I'm determined to make this new chapter a positive one. I might even get a plant, something that doesn't shed, or maybe a fish. Something low maintenance, but definitely no cats. Not for a long time. I've been thinking a small dog would be nice, maybe a hypoallergenic breed. Something small and fluffy that I can take care of without triggering a repeat of the great cat hair disaster of 2023. Edit. Small update: a few months after moving out, surprisingly, I got a friend request from Claire on Facebook. I was shocked. I accepted it, and she sent me a message saying she was sorry. But it wasn't a genuine apology. It was filled with excuses, and she still blamed me for everything that went wrong. I now have a new roommate named Jane. She's neat and tidy, just like me, and even made a roommate agreement, which I thought was funny, since I had been planning to do the same at some point. One evening, when Jane and I were watching a movie, I heard a knock at the door. It was Claire. I was being shocked. I opened the door, and Claire was there with Misty, claiming she wanted to apologize in person. She started talking, but I wasn't really listening anymore. All I could see was Misty jumping on my new sofa. I immediately told Claire to leave. She started yelling at me, and Jane came in to try to calm things down, but Claire shoved her. I was furious. I pushed Claire back, and we ended up physically fighting, pulling each other's hair, punching, and kicking. Jane finally intervened and separated us. Claire left crying, holding Misty in her arms. I had bruises on my arms, and my legs were sore. Jane took care of my bruises after everything settled down. After that, I blocked Claire on everything. That was the last time I ever saw her. It's been almost a year now, and everything is going great. Jane and I have become best friends, and we respect each other's space and boundaries. Life is peaceful, and I couldn't be happier.